Okay, good morning everyone in Chazak Baruch. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Tuesday morning as we are studying together Parashat Behaalotecha. Our parasha, we read about the complainers, the Jewish people complaining to Moshe about the man. They're complaining about just everything. They're just complaining. You know when like you're in a complaining mood and everything bothers you? You could be in Six Flags, you could be the best, but you're complaining. And the complaining got to Moshe's head. And eventually he says to God, did I give birth to them? Gosh, God, did I do this? Why is this falling on me? I can't anymore. And Moshe literally is about to give up. Moshe Hashem, Lama hare'ota le'avdecha? Why'd you do bad to me? Why are you placing this yoke on my shoulders? Ha'anochi hariti? Did I give birth to them? Unbelievable. Vayomer Adonai Moshe, God says back to Moshe, Esfali shiv'im ish miziknei Yisrael. Okay, no problem. Let's gather 70 men from the Jewish people. Asher yadata kihem ziknei ha'am v'shotirav. That they are very high up officers. Bring them to the tent of meeting, and I will come down and I will give over from your prophecy, from your level of spirituality, I will transfer it to them, basically to help you. And this is where the idea of the Sanhedrin was born. The elders, the 70 holy men. So, anyways, Moshe goes out. What ends up happening? All of a sudden, the glory of God comes down and descends onto these 70 men. And they prophesied. The Pasuk tells us that there were two men, their names we know, Eldad and Medad. And they remained outside of the group. And nonetheless, they still received prophecy. A little, one of the lads comes running, and he says to Moshe, "There's two guys, Eldad and Medad, and they're prophesying. They're not part of the 70." And Yehoshua spoke up, and he says, "Moshe, how dare they kill them?" Vayomer Moshe, and Moshe says back, "Hamkaneh atali? Are you jealous for me? Mi ten kolam Hashem. If only everybody could be a prophet." Vayasef Moshe lamachaneh hu v'zeknei Yisrael, and Moshe was brought into the camp, he and the elders of Israel. A wild story needs to be unpacked. First of all, who were these two guys? Why were there two guys? And what is Yehoshua's problem? Why should they be killed? And what is Moshe's response? All of this today, Be'ezrat Hashem, we're going to try to unpack with the help of our Midrash and a beautiful lesson from Rav Hirsch. The Midrash, Esfalim Shivim Ish, gather for me 70 men. B'sha'a she'amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu leMoshe Asfali Shivim Ish, when Moshe needed help and God said, okay, gather for me 70 men, Amar Moshe had a problem. He said, what do I do? How do you get 70 men equally from 6 tribes? If I bring 5 from each tribe, 12 times 5 is how much? 60. It won't reach the 70 that I need. So what will I do? I'll bring 6 from 10 tribes. Okay. And then I'll bring 5 from 2 tribes. So that'll be 70. What's the problem with that? If I bring 6 from 10 and 5 from the remainder 2, I'll be creating jealousy. Each tribe that gets the 2 is going to feel bad. The 2 tribes that get 5 are going to feel bad. Why do we get less prophets? Why do we have less representation? Why do we have less senators, less congressmen? We want to have equal amount of elders as everyone else. Why do we get picked to be the 2? Ma'asa, so what did Moshe do? Take a look. Famous midrash. Natal shiv'im u'shnayim ptakin. He took 72 tickets. Katav bahin zaken. He wrote the word elder on the 72. Okay? Again, I always misunderstood this. I always thought he took 72 and wrote 70 of them elder and the 2 blink. It's not what happened. He wrote on 72 of them elder, ve'od shnayim, and then 2 more ptakin halak, blink. So 74 altogether, and you'll see why he did this. Utrafan bekalpi, and then he mixed them in a box. So he took 6 from each tribe, 6 men from each tribe, that's 72. And then he took 74 pieces of paper. 2 of them were blank, 72 of them had the word elder. Amar, he said, Bo'u tu pitchem. He said, come and grab a piece of paper. If your paper had on it the word elder, then you were picked. This is like the first, Mr. Beast games, right? The first survivor. And if the paper had on it blink, he wasn't picked. And by the way, why was this done? Because the administrator would tell him, there was 2 tickets extra that had zaken on it. Because why? If you only did 70 and 2, then the last 2 guys, if they picked blink, they would say it's not fair. There was no ticket for me to pick from. There was no other option. So they had to have 72. Just in case you were to go there and pick the blink one, the guy could still say, but look, you could have picked the other one. Hashem wanted, there was other options for you. No, right? You couldn't protest that you picked the blank one because there was nothing else available. So they needed 2 extra ones that had the word elder. And this is how Moshe appointed the 70 elders. Well, the story continues. Eldad and Medad hayusham. Well, out of the 72, there ended up being these 2 guys, Eldad and Medad, that were there. Mi'atu atzman, they humbled themselves. Amru, and they said, In anu kedai liyot b'munui hazakenim. We are not worthy to be amongst the appointed elders. Ve'al shemi'atu atzman, and because they humbled themselves, nimtzeu yeterim al hazakenim hamisha. Ended up being that they actually were more superior to the elders in 5 ways. So again, 72 elders. 2 of them, Eldad and Medad, they left. They checked out. They surrendered. They said, we'll let the other 70 guys take it. However, because of that humility, God says, you 2 are going to actually be more superior to the other 70. In 5 ways. Number 1, Hazekinim lo nabu'u el mahar, aval elu nabu'u al mashatid besof 40 shana. Number 1, the 70 elders only prophesied for the tomorrow. But these 2, Eldad and Medad, they prophesied what's going to happen in 40 years. Shnei Emar, like it says, Vayusharu shnei nashim b'machaneh. Me'hayu v'nabeim. What did they prophesy? Now the pasuk doesn't say. It just said that they prophesied, and then Yehoshua said to Moshe, kill them. What did they say is not clear. Yesh Omrim comes to Midrash and says 2 opinions. Some say al mapalato shel Gog. They prophesied on the downfall of Gog. If you are familiar a little bit, there is a pasuk in Yehezkel that in the times of Mashiach, the war of Gog, king of Magog, will attack the land of Israel, and he will suffer a miraculous defeat. Be'ezat Hashem. We should see it very soon. But either way, so some say that Eldad and Medad were prophesying about this battle, Gog, the king of Magog. And Yesh Omrim, some say, and this is the more famous opinion, Moshe met veYehoshua machnis et Yisrael la'aretz. They said the following, they said Moshe is going to die, he's not going to be the one to bring the Jewish people into the promised land, it's going to be Yehoshua who does it. And that's why Yehoshua, by the way, got very upset. He spoke up. And he said, Moshe kilaim. Moshe killed him. And the Midrash continues. That was one out of 5 things. Number 2, Hazekinim lo nichnesu la'aretz. The elders did not enter the land. Eldad and Medad nichnasu la'aretz. They did enter the land. Wow. Okay, so that's a hidush. I don't know if you knew that. I always thought everyone died except for Yehoshua and Kalev. But it seems like also these 2 guys entered the land of Israel. The elders, we don't know their names. And these 2, we know their names. The elders, their prophecy ceased. But these 2 guys, not. Number 5, Shayam Mishel Moshe. The elder's spirit of prophecy was from Moshe. But these 2 got their prophecy from God Himself. Well, coming back to this idea that these 2 opinions of what they prophesied about. They prophesied, one opinion says Gog Magog, the battle at the end of time, the apocalypse. And the other one says it's going to be about Moshe dying and Yehoshua entering with the people into the land of Israel. And Rabbi Hirsch, he has an amazing essay over here. What was Yehoshua's problem? When Yehoshua hears that these 2 guys are getting prophecy, he says, kill them. Why? Because they were getting prophecy independent of Moshe. Like the end of the Midrash points out. The other 70 got it from Moshe. These 2 guys got it on their own. They reached spiritual levels without Moshe. Independent of Moshe's authority. Moshe is the messenger. Moshe is the guy, he's the one with semicha. And he's the one to give over the holiness over to everyone else. So he gave it to 70 men. All of a sudden, 2 guys come and they get it without Moshe. And Yehoshua says, how dare they? And Moshe says back, Hamkaneh atali. Are you jealous for me? Are you being zealous on my behalf? You think they're trampling on my honor? Moshe says the most amazing line. Umi yiten kol am Hashem nevi'im. If only everybody could be a prophet. The Moshe over here is teaching a very important lesson. You know, these 70 elders, the Sanhedrin, Moshe, leadership, the idea that there's only a select few individuals that are meant to lead the nation. Only a few people have the right to Torah, to authority. What does that mean that there's elders, that there's rabbis? Are they the ones that have the right to learn and no one else? Says Rav Hirsch, getting close to Hashem is not something that is limited. It's not exclusive. It's not an elitist thing. You don't have a say more than other people. Just because you're a rabbi, just because you're the officer, just because you're the judge, doesn't matter who you are in society. It's not a status thing. Every single person can achieve a closeness to Hashem. Moshe is teaching over here something very interesting. It's true there's leaders. It's true there's a pyramid. There's Moshe and under him and under him and under him. But you know when you've succeeded as a leader, whenever you succeeded as a parent, the highest level that we could ever reach in life is when we make ourselves unnecessary. When we make ourselves unnecessary. Matter of fact, the first teaching in Pirkei Avot that came from these elders, Moshe gave it to Yehoshua, to the Zekenim. All that hierarchy, pyramid, the first teaching, He'emidu talmidim harbe. Have many students. But it doesn't say have many students. It says He'emidu. Stand many students. What does that mean? Stand many students. Stand them up so that they can do it on their own. How fascinating. The name of our parasha is Parashat Behaalotecha. Parashat Behaalotecha, the pasuk says, Laha'alot is to lift. And over there, rabbis say that you have to hold the flame there, Ad sheteheh shalhevet ola me'eleha. That you have to hold it there till the flame could go up on itself. The goal is not just to teach. The goal is not just to give them information. The goal of parenting, of education, is not just to give them information. It's to give them the tools that they are self-sufficient, that they are independent, that they are ole me'eleha, that they can stand up on their own, that they can then go up and open a book anywhere and read it and understand it themselves without you. The greatest level we'll ever reach as a parent is when we are able to let go. And it's a crazy thing, because really you would think that I have to be there watching, making sure. But real parenting is when I can teach my children that when I'm gone, they'll know to make the right choices and the same choices that I'll make. This is parenting. It's not giving information, but it's transformation. It's helping them stand up. He'emidu talmidim harbe. The hardest thing sometimes for an educator or for a parent is to step back, is to give space, is to let go. It's scary to let go. You let go, they can fall, they can mess up. Like Rabbi Shais Taub says, Hashem gave us free will, and sometimes as parents, unfortunately, we take it away from our kids. We control them. And sometimes we have to know when to allow free will, when to allow mistakes, when to step back, when to give them space. And giving them space means they may make a mistake, they may not do the best job. And you have to go through the risks and assess what's going to happen if they mess up, what's the worst that will happen. But that's called, in concept of Kabbalah, it's called tzimtzum, taking a step back. Because by me stepping back, I'm allowing them to rise up. The highest level of Moshe Rabbeinu could reach is when he's dispensable, when he's no longer needed. If you're creating a company, the greatest level as a boss that you will ever reach is when you could not show up to work and the company could run smoothly without you. Then you know you have done an amazing job. Moshe Rabbeinu is teaching Yehoshua, Mi yiten kol am Hashem. There's no such thing as clergy and laity. We're all equal. There's a certain equality, a certain democracy. Says Rav Hirsch that Moshe Rabbeinu is teaching us. You know, and it's interesting because Korah, you're going to see in a couple of weeks. What does Korah say? Korah said, we don't need Moshe. Ki kol ha'edah kulam kedoshim. We're all holy. And in a way, Korah wasn't wrong. Well, the problem, first of all, with Korah was that he was a liar. Because he was saying that, but he didn't really mean that. He wanted to be the leader. He wanted to be in charge. If he was sincere and he said we should all be holy, no one should be in charge, we're all independent, we don't need Moshe, we could all reach Hashem individually, there's a truth to that. But even Korah himself didn't really believe in that. He wanted to be the leader. That's the irony. But even for what he was saying, there's a truth to what he was saying. That we don't need a middleman to reach God. Ideally, every person should be able to reach Hashem on their own. And this is something that is unique to Judaism. In Judaism, everyone's got to be educated. Everyone's got to learn. Everyone's got to know how to read. Everyone's got to know how to pray. Aseh lecha Rav, some explain what it means. Turn yourself into a Rav. You don't need the Rav. We didn't hoard the power. We didn't hoard the information. There was no monopoly. We didn't have only we know how to read. No one else knew how to read. No one else knew how to learn. You go to the church, they blocked the layman from being able to know how to learn. They were uneducated, the regular guy, because they wanted to hoard all of the control. They wanted to have a right to choose what we teach. When you teach everyone else how to read, then they could challenge you all of a sudden. Then they could say, oh, 1 second, who said that? Judaism, it's the exact opposite. Everyone's got to know how to read. Every synagogue, every house is a temple, is a Beit HaMikdash. Every table is a Mizbeach. This is the ideal one day. You know, Moshe says to Yehoshua, Mi yitin kol am Hashem. Ideally, every person should be a rabbi, close to Hashem. Whatever your vocation is, doesn't matter. But spirituality is not a monopoly. We are a mamlechet kohanim vegoy kadosh. What does that mean, mamlechet kohanim? That means that everyone is a kohen. Everyone should be able to reach greatness. And this idea of Gog uMagog, opinion number 1, what were Eldad and Medad prophesying? They were saying that Gog uMagog. They were saying that this guy, Gog, the king of Magog. What an interesting name, Gog. Where did it come from? Gog, he explains over here of Hirsch, their ideology comes from the word Gag, roof. Gag is a roof. That the control of a nation's destiny is to remain in the hands of those occupying the highest echelons of society. Yeah? The U.S. Constitution, the second amendment, what did it say? Every person has the right to bear arms. Why? They wanted everybody to have the right, every person, every citizen, because at a certain point, if the government gets too much power, then people have the right. It's about the people, it's not about the government. It's not about the institution, it's about us. The government's only there to represent us. So they had this elitist type of thinking. Gog, Gag. Gag. We're in charge, and we're the ones that tell you how to do and what to do, and if you need anything, you have to come to us. In the end of time, they're going to fall. There is a spiritual equality. Hamona, the city of the masses. And this is what they were predicting, the final victory at the end of time. You see today the world is very interestingly shifting to equality. Didn't exist in the old, back then. The old world, men, women, everyone is different. You're seeing today a shift to equality, which, again, equality doesn't mean we're all the same. It doesn't mean men or women. But it does mean that there's equality of potential, of closeness, of greatness. And you see today's shift that's happening in the world. Who knows? Maybe it's preparing the stage for Mashiach. And who does this prophecy come from? It doesn't come from the great rabbis. It doesn't come from the 70. And that's Yeshua's problem. Who are they? How dare they? And Moshe says back, what do you mean? What's the problem? Me 10. This is the goal. The goal is that everyone should be able to reach Hashem without me. We shouldn't need a Moshe. Ideally, again, it's not the world that we live in yet. But ideally, we should be able to Ha'emidu Talmidim Harbeh. The goal is that every guy should be able to open a Gemara and learn on his own. If you're, right, how does this saying go? Great leaders have many followers, but, good leaders have many followers, but great leaders create many leaders, something like that. Good leaders create many followers, but great leaders create many leaders. The idea is that you should be a leader on your own. The greatest accomplishment is when the student doesn't need the rabbi and he could go now learn by himself. You don't want them to be dependent on you. So this is the democratic future in store for the world, where Hashem's salvation will not come from an oil, but from the mahaneh. It's very interesting, by the way, the end of the paragraph, it says, after all is said and done, Vayasef Moshe el mahane. Moshe goes back to the mahane. The idea that there's a palace and an ohel where only Moshe could go, a kohen gadol, somebody on top. Ideally, we should all be equal. Every person should have the ability to strive to reach Moshe's level. We shouldn't limit it to one person. When Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, he says he was once in a debate, and the fellow with a Christian, the fellow said to him, "Don't you?" Eventually, in the argument, he said to him in the debate, he said, "Don't you accept Yeshu as the Son of God?" And Rabbi Sachs smiled and said, "Of course, we're all the Son of God." I think that's what Rav Hirsch is saying. We're all the Son of Hashem. And so Gog uMagog represents this idea that Gog is going to be defeated. That you're going to have this system, this hierarchy, this elitism. No. Every Jew, doesn't matter your IQ, your charisma, your class, you can attain holiness. The second opinion, what do they prophesy about? Moshe met. Moshe will die. Yehoshua is going to bring the people in. Unbelievable thing. It's clear. Even a Moshe Rabbeinu is dispensable. As great as you are, we don't need you. The show will go on. And the nation continues and the story continues. And Moshe is dead and the people continue. Because it's not about Moshe. It's not about Moshe. It's about the team. In another context, of Hirsch elaborates on the Jewish principle of spiritual equality. Listen to this, I'm reading to you verbatim. When God chose us and made us His own, He did so in order to establish for Himself Mamlechet Kohanim veGoy Kadosh, a kingdom of priests, a holy nation. This was to be a kingdom in which every citizen would be a priest, enlightened by God and serving Him. In this kingdom, every home would be a temple, every table an altar, every act of domestic and public life an act of divine worship, glorifying God. Fields and meadows, workshops and public halls would preach God's name no less eloquently than temples and seats of learning. Thus, the farmer behind the plow, the craftsman with his tools, the merchant with his wares, and the scholar with his thoughts would be just as priestly as the high priest of the temple of God. Hence, the kind of nation God wanted to establish was not a nation that would also have its saints, but a nation that was altogether holy, a nation with each and every one of its members holy. God wanted a nation in which woodcutters and water drawers would stand in the same hallowing proximity to God, with the same vocation and dignity as the princes and the high priests, a nation in which any man with a bundle of sticks on his back or water bucket on his shoulder could strive to reach spiritual and moral perfection and have the same opportunity to attain this objective. In short, this was to be a nation in which all personal careers would merge into one vocation common and equally assigned to all, to become and remain priestly and holy, by dutifully observing the law of God and by ceaseless labor on spiritual and moral perfection. In other words, to become and remain a genuine Jew. Gorgeous. Gorgeous. Mamlechet Kohanim veGoy Kadosh. Everybody is meant to be holy. Holiness is a lifestyle, and it's accessible to every single Jew. Every single one of us. There is no spiritual aristocracy in Judaism. There is only individual responsibility and infinite divine love. And this is what Moshe is saying. And this is the lesson from our Perashah. We should be zocheh very, very soon to reach those days of Gog uMagog. And in the meantime, we have to make sure that each of us, you're listening to a class maybe, but now you go give a class. Now you become a Rav. Now you take notes. Now you study. Now you open up a book. Now you educate yourself. That's really the ideal. Be'ezrat Hashem, we should all reach a level that we are rising Behaalotecha, and that we are raising our students and our children to be able to leha'alot ner, to to be able to stand up on their own and to be true Kohanim, priests, and holy on their own level. We'll stop over here. Be'ezrat Hashem, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.